With just 10 days to reach a debt ceiling and spending agreement or risk an unprecedented default, President Joe Biden and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy will meet in the Oval Office late on Monday afternoon. White House negotiators returned to Capitol Hill early on Monday and held a nearly 3-hour meeting with Republican negotiators before their one-on-one meeting. Following the meeting, McCarthy told reporters in the early afternoon of Monday that Biden would require a deal by this week in order for it to be approved by the House and Senate before the June 1 ex-date, when Treasury Secretary Jane Yellen has warned that the United States may default. Yellen issued a warning on Sunday, stating that June 1 is a hard deadline for raising the debt ceiling and that the likelihood of avoiding default by mid-June is quite low. McCarthy responded when asked if he thought a deal could be reached as soon as Monday night. "I thought it was better to have a deal sooner. I believe we can. Tonight we can work out a deal. We can reach an agreement tomorrow, but you need to take action this week in order to pass it and send it to the Senate." He said, referring to House members, "We're going to need a couple of days to write it and to make sure that everyone can read it." He cited a compromise he made in order to be elected Speaker, reverting to the previous requirement that House members have 72 hours to review legislation before voting on it. Although he acknowledged that the short time frame makes it more difficult, he continued, "I think this will make it all happen." The question of whether McCarthy will have the votes necessary to pass a deal in the House if one is reached is another pressing issue as negotiations proceed. McCarthy resisted when asked if he could count on extreme right-wing House Republicans to support a debt ceiling agreement or if he would also need Democratic support. "Democrats and Republicans will always support an agreement that is reached through negotiations with the president," he asserted. The House Freedom Caucus, which is made up of numerous Republican hardliners, demanded that negotiations with the Biden administration end and that all efforts instead be directed toward passing the Limit, Save, Grow Act in the Senate. This legislation would drastically cut spending in exchange for a one-year increase in the debt ceiling, which Democrats have deemed unworkable. Because of their opposition, McCarthy might require a sizable number of Democratic votes to pass a debt limit agreement. Progressives are urging Biden to use the 14th Amendment to take unilateral action on the matter after warning of backlash if he gives Republicans too much ground. McCarthy refused to say whether there had been any movement with the White House as he entered the Capitol earlier on Monday, continuing to criticize Democrats' spending. "The fundamental problem, according to McCarthy, is that Democrats have been spending compulsively ever since gaining control of Congress." McCarthy promised that spending would be reduced this year compared to last. While McCarthy expressed excitement for his 5:30 p.m. meeting with the president at the White House, he also used the occasion to criticize Biden. "The worst course of action here is to deal with a crisis at the last minute. Republicans acted as a result," he said. After negotiations stalled over the weekend, primarily over the issue of spending and the length of budget caps, Biden and McCarthy spoke on Sunday. McCarthy called the call productive but emphasized there was no agreement, while Biden said it went well. GOP opposition to Biden's demand that tax increases be included in a deal to raise the debt ceiling also exists. Tax increases are not on the table for discussion, Representative Jody Arrington, chairman of the House Budget Committee, said on Sunday to Martha Raddatz, co-anchor of ABC's This Week. To pass a bill and deliver it to Biden's desk by June 1, McCarthy had previously stated that an agreement in principle would be required by this past weekend. McCarthy declined to provide specifics when asked by ABC's Elizabeth Schulz on Sunday when his deadline for starting to move legislation on the floor would be, but he added that he still has faith that Congress will eventually be able to do so.